Good evening and welcome to Prime Edition. Reactions continue to pour in. Of course, the National Assembly resumes its sittings on Tuesday next week, and part of its agenda will be discussing the possible passing of the Finance Bill 2023. This even as reaction from the opposition continue to pour in and alluding to the rejection of not only of that bill, but most likely returning to the streets to protest the high cost of living. And you expect President William Ruto, who spent the better time of tomorrow's speech, Madaraka Day celebrations, explaining to Kenyans the need for the new finance bill. We have details lined up for you in this broadcast. Here are tonight's highlights. We will neutralize any religious or cultural extremism. CS Kindiki's warning as he issues his second securities dispatch.
Tumewapatia wiki hii, kesho ni Madaraka Day.
Listen to the cries of a people or else. Raila Odinga's words to President Ruto.
Deceased families are entitled to a group life insurance compensation of Kenya shillings 400,000 per student.
And good news at least. Each family of the 4 victims of the Mukumu girls poisoning tragedy to receive 400,000 shillings. And later on in this broadcast, we will be speaking to the Member of Parliament for Limuru constituency, Engineer John Kirago Shege, and we'll be talking about the expectations of Kenyans in tomorrow's Madaraka Day celebrations, of course, surrounded by gloom owing to the high cost of living that the country continues to experience, but that will be coming up a little bit later. Welcome to the broadcast. My name is John Jacob Kioria. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Anne Wangeshi. The government will compensate families whose kin died in Mukumu Girls High School in Kakamega following a food poisoning incident. Appearing before the Senate plenary on Wednesday, Education Cabinet Secretary Ezekiel Mashogu said each family will receive 400,000 shillings, adding that hospital bills for the other affected students have been settled. Mukumu Girls was temporarily closed down for 3 weeks in April following an outbreak of an illness linked to food poisoning and water contamination.
The government will compensate family whose kin died in Mukumu Girls High School in Kakamega following a food poisoning incident. The government will provide financial compensation of 400,000 shillings to each of the families of 3 students and a teacher who tragically lost lives at Mukumu Girls due to food poisoning.
The deceased families are entitled to a group life insurance compensation of Kenya shillings 400,000 per student from the Eduafia insurance policy, and we are following that. And in a few days' time, I'm sure that the 400,000 that, according to the policy, will be paid to the affected families.
Education Cabinet Secretary Ezekiel Machogu, who spoke when he appeared before Senate plenary to answer questions on the ministry's plans to compensate the families, said the government has also settled hospital bills for the affected students.
The ministry, through the Eduafia insurance policy, catered for the cost of treatment of the 109 students in various facilities that they were admitted to.
Apart from the rehabilitation measures, the Cabinet Secretary said the ministry has operationalized a water purifier dispensing unit at a cost of 6 million shillings, while 10 million shillings have been disbursed to dormitory and class refurbishments. Machogu also told senators that investigations conducted by the multi-agency team probing the deaths are yet to connect any suspect with the incident that led to the death of 3 students and a teacher over consumption of poisonous food.
Among other people that we had in that multi-agency approach were CID officers. So the report I've so far gotten from that particular team does not indicate that any individual was criminally responsible to warrant being taken to court.
Mukumu Girls was closed down for 3 weeks in April following an outbreak of illness linked to food poisoning and water contamination. For Prime Edition, I'm Gladys Mongai.
Talked about the finance bill in our introduction. Azimio leader Raila Odinga has given President William Ruto until Monday next week to look into contentious issues in the finance bill, failure to which he will face unspecified action. Raila, who was speaking at the Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Foundation headquarters in Nairobi, asked President Ruto to listen to the voices of Kenyans opposed to the bill. The former premier accused the government of seeking to impose undue taxes on already overtaxed Kenyans.
A showdown looms between the government and the Azimio la Umoja coalition over the Finance Bill 2023. A section of Kenyans have expressed their reservations over the implementation of the bill in its current form, with opposition leader Raila Odinga saying these sentiments must be listened to and accommodated. Speaking on Wednesday at the Jaramogi Odinga Foundation headquarters in Nairobi, when he handed over tools of work worth 20 million Kenyan shillings donated by Westlands Member of Parliament Tim Wanyonyi, Odinga faulted the government for imposing undue taxes on the already overtaxed Kenyans, whom he said the majority live below $1 a day.
Yani yale ambao wanafanya ni kuweka mafuta kwa ile moto ambayo tayari inawaka. Tumeona haya. Hawa jamaa halewi haya. Wameleta zingine ati kodi ya nyumba. Ati wewe nasema hii si kodi, hii wewe unafanya investment. Alafu wanatumia lugha ile ambayo tulidhani tulikuwa tumezika. Inaitwa tumewapende wasipende. Hiyo lugha ilikuwa inaongelewa wakati wa Nyayo. Sasa hiyo sheria ambayo wanaleta kwa bunge, jana nilikuwa na hapa na wabunge wetu, na nikawaambia kwamba sitaki kuona hata mbunge mmoja kuunga mkono.
Na tumengojea tu hiyo papa akisema turudi penye tulikuwa kwa barabara, tutarudi. Mko tayari? Lazima tuokoe nchi yetu, sawa sawa? Na nyinyi vijana, inji it belongs to you more than it belongs to us.
The Azimio la Umoja coalition has officially pulled out of the bipartisan talks after their plea to the government to suspend the recruitment of the chairperson and commissioners of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission (IEBC) fell on deaf ears. The team revealed that matters raised in the resolution of the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Parliamentary Group meeting was ignored. The leaders had poked holes on the exercise, saying it might jeopardize the joint bipartisan talks. The team had also underscored the need of preserving the 2022 presidential election servers in a bid to facilitate any requirement for inspection, which was equally rejected.
And President William Ruto, in the meantime, has commended the ceasefire and cessation of hostilities in the Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo, DRC. The president says a remarkable progress had been witnessed in the past 2 months, facilitating the return to normalcy in the country. He spoke on Wednesday during the 21st Extraordinary Summit of the East African Community EAC Heads of State in Bujumbura, Burundi. The heads of state have resolved to extend the mandate of the East African Community Regional Force by 6 months. President Ruto says a civilian officer will be appointed to help shield the East African Regional Force from political and public affairs matters.
I call the Chair Council of Ministers.
Allow me, Mr. Chairman, to take this opportunity to congratulate East Africans on the decision that was made by the East African head of state to step in the theater of what was happening in Eastern DRC. Your Excellency, the decision by the heads of state to get into the theater in Eastern DRC and to work with our brothers and sisters in the DRC under President Felix Tshisekedi has yielded very positive results. Today, we have a full deployment of the East Africa Regional Force.
From DRC back to Nairobi, the National Cohesion and Integration Commission is sounding an alert over happenings in the country that could threaten the country's national fabric. In a briefing by the Commission led by the Chairperson Samuel Kobia, the Commission singled out several issues that were threatening the country's peace and security, key among them being the secession calls by the opposition, the emergence of criminal gangs and religious and cultural indoctrinations. The Commission is cautioning Azimio against secession calls, calling for alternative methods to address the concerns. At the same time, they are cautioning politicians against financing criminal gangs.
As far as we are concerned, as NCIC, secession cannot and must not be an option to be considered, because we know countries where there have been any attempt to secede, it takes decades for them to recover, if at all. As a Commission, we are concerned with the reemergence of the trend and the proliferation of organized criminal gangs, which were banned, as we know, in 2010 and 2016. This threatens the public who live in fear of attacks, loss of life, and business disruption. Such gangs also create a reputational and brand risk to the nation's international image.
President William Ruto has nominated Anne Wangombe and Salome Muhea as Principal Secretaries, Performance Management and Delivery Services and Correctional Services, respectively. Consequently, the President appears to have dropped the previous choice, Faith Njeri Harrison, for the Performance Management and Delivery Services Principal Secretary under the Office of a Prime Cabinet Secretary, even before the National Assembly vets her. The two nominees now await vetting by relevant departmental committees before their formal appointment by the President. In the meantime, the government will put up 25,000 free Wi-Fi hotspots in the country in order to enhance digital connectivity. Speaking while launching the Jitume Kazi laboratories at the Runyenjes and Jeremiah Nyaga Technical Institutes in Embu, Information Communication and the Digital Economy Cabinet Secretary Eliud Owalo further said the government will establish technical and vocational education and training centers that will also train young people on digital literacy skills.
Yes, thank you. In line with the digital transformation agenda, the government has pledged to roll out 100,000 kilometers of fiber across the country to enhance connectivity. Information Communication and the Digital Economy CS Eliud Owalo made the remarks while launching Jitume Kazi laboratories at the Runyenjes Technical and Vocational Education and Training Center and the Jeremiah Nyaga TVET.
We are going a step further to establish and operationalize these digital laboratories, the Jitume digital laboratories, within our TVETs and also within the villages. At the ward level, we are establishing and operationalizing a total of 1,450 digital hubs so that our youth are able to get access to digital.
The CS was accompanied by the Embu Governor Cecily Mbarire. His PS and stakeholders in the digital sector encouraged the youths to take up opportunities in the digital space.
In the same vein, ladies and gentlemen, we are also setting up a total of 25,000 free Wi-Fi hotspots. We are targeting markets, we are targeting bus termini where our youth usually who are not gainfully employed are domiciled. We want all our youth, our brothers and sisters, to get involved in gainful economic activity while leveraging on technology.
The world has become so small that through the digital space, you can be able to become a personal assistant of some big executive in the US. Believe that way, we'll be able to create more jobs for young people and this country will grow economically.
If these students, 2,000 of them, get opportunity to work with the possibilities of earning the minimum, which is 30,000, in 1 month, they will earn more than the worth of this school. So this is going to be a very big transformation in this area.
This comes as the government further plans to roll out 25,000 free Wi-Fi hotspots all over the country to enable youth leverage on the internet and also establish digital hubs in each ward across the country. With the digital transformation agenda, the government now shines a ray of hope on the youths, promising to turn them from learners to instant earners. Serafina Robi reporting for Prime Edition from the Jeremiah Nyaga Technical Institute.
From Embu, let's go to the neighboring county, and that is Tharaka Nithi. And of course, the other one to the west, and that is Kirinyaga. Kenyans have been urged to exercise caution before sharing their personal data. This was the focus of discussion during the launch of a countrywide awareness campaign by the Office of the Data Commissioner. The campaign seeks to sensitize Kenyans on data processors and collectors on the new law in sharing and handling personal data. Our reporters Zainab Said and Nancy Okware were in Kirinyaga and Tharaka Nithi counties, respectively, and filed this report.
After a successful pilot phase in Machakos, Tana River and Garissa counties, the Data Protection Commission officially started phase 1 of county awareness outreach programs.
And are required to register.
In Kirinyaga County, residents sought clarity on the measures in place to ensure those who breach data confidentiality are held accountable.
So many times when we find our accounts being hacked and we have not given any data to any unauthorized person, it is done within the banks. How do you take care of the people or the bankers, not the bankers, the clients?
Waendelee na hii organization mpaka watabue wale watu wana hijack. Saa zingine unajipata picha yako imechukuliwa na si wewe, unajipata tu picha yako inaenea na si wewe. Ningetaka tu atuangalia kwa hiyo. Saa zingine unapata jina yako ati unaitisha pesa na hakuna pesa unaitisha. Na ndio tumejua hii data protection ni right yetu tupewe protection. Tungeomba tu waendelee mbele na waendelee kuangamiza hao watu wanafanya hiyo kazi.
The Office of Data Commissioner also urged Kenyans to exercise caution while sharing personal data, while those handling personal data were cautioned against misusing the data.
You have a right to query the request for your information as well, and this is usually done by data processors or controllers advising you of the needs to collect your information and the reasons for collection of your information. So you very much have a right to be informed, and you can use that information to either give your information or decline if you have a choice on whether to give it or not.
To shield themselves from avoidable data breach, the Commission is advising data collectors and processors to only store public data for as long as they need it. Now, a similar exercise was also going on in Tharaka Nithi County. To you, Nancy.
Well, thank you so much, Zainab Said. And indeed, for the better part of Wednesday, the team from the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner pitched camp in Chuka, Tharaka Nithi County, sensitizing data handlers on the importance of safeguarding the data in their possession.
This was the situation in Tharaka Nithi. The discussion centered on requirements of data controllers and data processors in managing personal data.
The data security stands on 3 pillars: the confidentiality, integrity, and availability. How do you determine when to avail data and when not to avail the data?
Stakeholders were challenged to ensure they secure personal data and utilize it for the intended purpose.
So that when you're collecting those things, maybe for transfer or shamba, we make sure we guide you and tell you, make sure you're collecting Susan's photo, her ID, her PIN, and her signature only for transferring land. You can now take that PIN and tell KRA, Ebu check for me if this girl pays her payee. No. You see the way sometimes you get messages, loans available in 24 hours, unapigiwa na watu wa tunawaitanga in Nairobi watu wa committee. How are you? You wonder, where did they get my number? We want to protect that. We want to protect whoever gave your number should be answerable to why does somebody in committee have my phone number.
If you are transferring your personal data to another country, then you even notify the data commissioner about such intentions. Transfer as a necessity. Is it a necessity that you transfer the personal data? Maybe for medical reasons, and somebody want to have a medical examination done in another country, and it is to the interest as a necessity.
Since its inception in 2019, The Office of Data Commissioner has received 2,000 cases on personal data breach, out of which 19 have been investigated, while the rest were handled through alternative dispute resolution.
The team from the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner will continue with its sensitization campaign across the country, all these geared towards ensuring compliance by all stakeholders. Nancy Okware, reporting from Chuka, Tharaka Nithi County.
All right, that story from Chuka takes us on our first very break on Prime Edition. When we come back, Bonnie is lined up for including our top story, the latest from Interior Cabinet Secretary Professor Kioria Kindiki, and reading the Riot Act on criminals hell-bent on causing havoc in the country. And of course, later a conversation with the Member of Parliament for Limuru, that is Engineer John Kirago-Shege. We're talking about Madaraka and the pain thereof caused by the high cost of living. Don't go too far. We're coming back in a moment.
Kurumisha ndege. Aviator instant game. Be a daring pilot and earn by how much high you can lift the plane. The higher you fly, the higher your win. The sky is the limit. Mozart Bet.
Huchagui familia yako, ni zawadi ya Mungu kwako kama ulivyozawadi kwao. Iwapo unakohoa, unahisi uchungu kwenye kifua, uchovu kila wakati, joto jingi mwilini, unakosa hamu ya kula au kupoteza uzito haraka bila kukusudia, na kutokwa na jasho jingi usiku, waweza kuwa waugua TB. Nenda hospitalini ukapimwe. Ikibainika ya kwamba ni TB, utapewa dawa, na ukimeza vizuri ulivyoshauriwa na daktari, utapona. TB yaweza kuangamiza jamii yako. Usikubali. Matibabu ni bila malipo katika hospitali zote za serikali.
Are you a holder of unclaimed financial assets? Surrender unclaimed financial assets today and avoid the last-minute rush. Take advantage of penalties and fines waiver ending June 30th, 2023. Report and surrender unclaimed financial assets today. For more information, visit our website www.ufaa.go.ke/holders or contact us through holders@ufaa.go.ke or call us on 020-402-3000. Do not wait for the June 30th, 2023 deadline. Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority. Receive, safeguard, reunite.
Welcome back. You're watching Prime Edition. Let's go back to a top story tonight. Interior Cabinet Secretary Kioria Kindiki has read the Riot Act to individuals running criminal enterprises under the guise of cultural and religious groupings. In a strong-worded statement, Kindiki also promised to crack the whip on rogue police officers, denting the image of the police service. This comes as he ordered the immediate transfer of all police officers stationed in Isebania Police Station in Migori County.
Wednesday afternoon at the Harambee House in Nairobi, Interior Cabinet Secretary Professor Kioria Kindiki issued a status report of his ministry's performance in the last 6 months. Kindiki did not hesitate to slam those he says were profiteering from violent extremism under the pretext of religion and culture.
We are actively investigating a number of extremists, all those priests, pastors, monks, rabbis, imams, leaders of groups purporting to be religious groups, but who are engaging in serious crimes against humanity, including sexual violence, slavery, torture, and inhumane and degrading treatment.
He warned the government will crack the whip indiscriminately on those recruiting terror groups. At the same time, he took a swipe at rogue police officers who he says were tainting the image of the men in blue by taking bribes.
As we transport them out of Isibania, we may not be taking them to news stations for the reasons which I said earlier. Because taking them to news stations is transferring a problem to another part of the country which equally deserves good services.
He also cautioned the public against storming protected areas and causing havoc. He also warned those holding illegal firearms to surrender them voluntarily or be subjected to forceful disarmament as the government moves to secure bandit-prone areas. And on the invasion of retired former President Uhuru Kenyatta Northland's family property,
we have undertaken investigations and we will be arraigning some suspects very soon. It has taken a bit of time because of the politicization.
Kindiki further revealed they have zeroed in on 5 major national security priorities, among them the fight against terror, war against banditry, illicit trade and manufacture of narcotic substances, violent extremism and climate change. Yusufar reporting for Prime Edition.
3 witnesses in the 20 million shillings Malindi CDS Sub-County Education Office's corruption case have questioned the authenticity of documents presented by the Directorate of Criminal Investigations before the court. The witnesses said the documents were not original.
Appearing before Chief Magistrate Martha Mutuku and Auditor Grimuli Lukale, testified that the audited accounts purportedly prepared and audited by AML Associates were not audit reports from his firm, and the other 2 witnesses admitted there were glaring mistakes at the education offices.
Your Honor, no evidence has been given that this witness is the custodian.
The hearing continues Friday with 10 remaining witnesses expected to appear before the case is closed.
The one who forwarded to you is the DCI. What does the document say? Does the document say it originates from a particular institution?
Say the Joanafanya hapo kazi, he can bring from here.
And a businessman today narrated before the court how the mastermind, Caroline Rukia Ngozi, conned him 6.9 million shillings for a tender process.
Umesema ako kazi hapo chini ya CEO kama secretary. So aliniambia yeye amesaidia watu wengi kusupply supplies. Yeah.
Suleiman Osman Nur, while giving his evidence before trial magistrate Ben Makehubi, narrated how Caroline Rukia Ngozi pretended as an employee of NHIF and defrauded him in a lucrative 238 million Kenya shillings tender deal between 26 September 2022 and 14th October 2022. And the hearing of witnesses in the murder of a businessman Abdi Fatah Hassan continued Wednesday with Ali and Moses Maithia, who took to the dock telling the court that they did not witness the murder incident.
Ulisikia mtu yote akipiga nduru? Nanto kwa dagateka ni kalele na kai. Wala tijama gari kuna mimi wani jama ndaki. Hajasikia. Haukusikia nduru yote? Kelele ni. Acha kulikuwa na kelele ya gari, kelele mingi.
Mohamed Farah Mahadi is accused of stabbing to death the deceased near Al Hidayah Mosque in Isli in September 2022. Ruth Wamboi for Prime Edition.
The Policyholders Compensation Fund, PCF, is a state corporation under the National Treasury and Economic Planning that was established under the Insurance Act with the primary mandate of providing compensation to the claimants of an insurer placed under statutory management or whose license has been cancelled. It was established for the secondary purpose of creating confidence in the insurance sector. Policyholders Compensation Fund, dhamana ya bima yako.
Ili kupata sikiza tune hii ya Usini Record, bonyeza *811 *396 #.
Unakata pia
Baya Wakenya mnakuanga nako ya kuweka mtu kwa speaker alafu mnarekodi sauti yake bila ruhusa. Nikipata sauti yangu ina trend huko nje na kuna pesa napata, mtajua mimi mlu yako na lawyer na sina lawyer binadamu. Usinirecord.
Ili kupata skiza tini hii, usinirecord. Bonyeza *811*396#.
Cheza Loto Moto.
Oleaje wase, mimi naitwa John Jeroge, nitoka hapo hivyo Ruiru bypass. Leo niko huku kwa Loto Moto. Nimekuwa nikicheza Loto Moto na win big. Alafu leo hapa hivi niko huku. Hiyo show imekuwa tricky. Nilikuwa tu nimekujia ki 42 hapa hivi. Lakini leo nimewin grass na jug. Na nahimiza wase mcheze Loto Moto. Juu mtu win big.
Usisahau kucheza Loto Moto. Shinda milioni 2 kila siku kwenye M-Pesa. Chagua lipa na M-Pesa. Paybill number weka 757070. Account number andika neno Loto. Weka kiwango chochote cha pesa kuanzia shilingi 50 hadi 2000. Lipa kisha subiri draw.
Colgate Herbal is formulated from a unique blend of natural herbs and is scientifically proven to strengthen teeth and keep gums healthy. Try Colgate Herbal, scientifically proven for strong teeth and healthy gums.
Focus on what has been happening across the counties. Police in Nanyuki town, Laikipia County, have launched investigations into the brutal killing of a medical officer in his residence. The body of 30-year-old John Mwaniki, who previously worked as an intern at the Nanyuki Teaching and Referral Hospital, was found dumped outside a 5-story apartment in the Ngido estate on Thursday morning.
Nanyuki Location Chief Duncan Washira, while addressing the press at the scene, said preliminary investigations showed that the clinical officer was stabbed to death before the killers moved his body outside to the main gate.
Ule mwili ulikuwa na jeraha kwa chingo, ni kama mtu ambaye alikatwa chingo halafu akatupwa, na kwa kifua chake amedungwa kisu, lakini ndio tunaachia askari wafanye kazi ya uchunguzi wao.
The landlord has since been taken to Nanyuki police station to record a statement and assist detectives in the investigations. Meanwhile, several churches in Embu are counting losses after armed thugs broke in and stole assorted electronic equipment worth 1 million shillings. In what looked like a well-choreographed plan, the thugs simultaneously struck at around 2 a.m.
Tumeenda gharama kubwa, na ningeomba tu serikali itajua kwamba ni kama kuna mbinu nyingine ya wahisi kukunja masaa fulani na wakati fulani wanakuja kwa pamoja.
Hakuna mtu ambaye anaweza kwenda kuibia Mungu na huyo mtu avanikiwe. Kwa hivyo kitu ni ya kwamba wale ambao wako na mambo kama hayo wayakomeshe.
These as 2 people were arrested for allegedly vandalizing property meant for Kerugoya Kutus bulk water project in Kirinyaga Central, Kirinyaga County.
Tunaomba wananchi mali wako na pia washirikiane na sisi wakomeshe huo uhalifu wa kuharibu vifaa za maji. Hizi maji zinatusaidia sisi wote watu wa Kirinyaga.
Elsewhere, the county government of Kitui, in partnership with the USAID, has launched an oxygen plant worth over $200,000 to address the needs of patients in dire need of oxygen and those suffering various respiratory challenges.
The plant will significantly reduce the turnaround time for procuring and delivering oxygen from Nairobi, saving our people lives and costs.
USAID is investing in the long-term future of Kitui County and its people by sustainably expanding health care.
Finally, Matatu Owners Association has called on the government to crack the whip on rogue operators in order to restore sanity in the Matatu sector. The group also want government security assurance during street protests.
These circles to have proper management, because if they have proper management, they will know who they are employing.
Tusikuwa tunachomea watu vitu zao, sababu mtu work hard, amejaribu, amefika mahali ako, then all of a sudden you wake up unaambiwa hauna hii.
Michael Mondiga for Prime Edition.
for Limuru, John Kirago as regards the Madaraka Day celebrations. But before we do that, delays in signing the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System is affecting intra-Africa trade. Cooperatives Cabinet Secretary Simon Chelugui told the just concluded Third Kenya International Investment Conference that only 28 commercial banks and 8 central banks in Africa have adopted the payment platform, which is meant to ease financial settlements in Africa. Chelugui has urged African central bankers to expedite the signing and adoption process.
Great Africa, so that whatever we produce in Kenya and whatever is produced in our neighbors can be distributed across this continent.
A highly disintegrated financial market system across Africa has for years dogged cross-border trade, driving up costs of exports and imports and creating an over-reliance on the dollar for transactions.
If today we had one currency in Africa, assume Kenya shillings, assume Africa dollar, we would not have a problem in selling our milk and coffee and tea across in any currency. We will not have exchange challenges, foreign exchange challenges.
The continent has 46 currencies which have minimal acceptance on the continent. Cooperatives as CS urged the African countries to onboard on the PAPs to complement trading under the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement.
Because we have cornered ourselves with this currency, Africa is challenged. We can free ourselves by strengthening a common payment system.
If adopted, the system will save African countries over $5 billion in currency exchange costs.
And unless we speak to ourselves, we will continue to live within those rules and maps and boundaries that were set before our independence.
By June 2022, the network consisted of 8 central banks, 28 commercial banks and 6 switches, and hopes to expand into 5 regions of Africa before the end of 2023.
So time will tell if Africa indeed is ready to make do and bring action to the conversations that have dominated this 3-day conference with one key objective: Africa to trade more within Africa. I'm Regina Manyara, you're watching Prime Edition.
Deep-sea fishing companies with permits to operate in Kenyan waters will now be required to process their catch at Liwatoni Fishing Complex once it is complete. Mining, Blue Economy and Maritime Affairs Cabinet Secretary Salim Mvurya says the policy is aimed at increasing employment opportunities through value addition.
Kenya is allowed to license 70 ships in its deep sea, with all licensed deep sea fishing vessels owned by foreign fishing companies. However, Kenya is planning to make it mandatory for deep sea fishing vessels to process their catch at the Liwatoni Fishing Complex. Blue Economy Cabinet Secretary says the policy change is geared towards increasing employment opportunities for Kenyans.
The resources available in fishing sector, because as we're talking now, our resources are being taken by the trawlers, which are foreign trawlers. And that is something which it could be done within our country and improve our economy in terms of fishing.
Why we have the Liwatoni project in Mombasa, so that then it becomes a landing site for vessels that ply the trade in deep sea.
This as Kenya has signed a memorandum of understanding with the Mediterranean Shipping Company to train 1,000 seafarers annually.
His ministry has sent any set any conditions precedent before any shipping line is allowed access into our waters, to give them perhaps a target. I know he has said there's a policy and they make requests to them.
MOUs, we are very specific with the shipping lines on the recruitment. For example, the MOU with the Mediterranean Shipping Line, we have made provision for recruitment of seafarers annually.
Mvurya adds that they are targeting to link 500 local seafarers with shipping lines plying to South Africa, US and Dubai.
Once we have the numbers, then now we utilize the capacity in Bandari Maritime Academy to prepare them to qualify for these particular jobs that we are negotiating.
The Treasury has been encouraged to increase its disbursements to the Bandari Maritime School to ensure it offers modern trainings and start satellite campuses across the country.
As the Kenya International Investment Conference came to a close, Kenya is looking at 6 core areas to position itself as an attractive investment destination. Agriculture, digital economy, environment and climate change are among Kenya's key selling points. As Hibak Said reports, the conference concluded that improving Africa's investment competitiveness is the only way to attract and retain investors.
Since the Africa Continental Free Trade Area was forged in 2018, progress to link up all 54 countries through trade has met major headwinds. Major bottlenecks that include differences in border regulations and poor infrastructure were the main issues being tackled at the Kenya International Investment Conference, presided over by 55 trade ministers from across the continent.
Enhance local content to our manufactured goods. We have made deliberate decision to increase backward linkages to strengthen our domestic productive capacity.
So we need to invite as many of these investors locally to create basic opportunities. Employment, for example. If we bring outside all these solutions into the country, we should be able to open up employment opportunities. We should be open up ability for even our youth to get opportunities to expand themselves. People talk about Kenya being the Silicon Savannah for Africa. So we also get opportunities to unlock all those solutions to our locals.
The just-ended deliberations led to a common conclusion that Africa ought to improve its competitiveness as an investment destination to ensure that returns are at par with or surpass other continents. In addition, the need for MSME promotion and easing of policies to make businesses favorable came to the fore.
We want to assure you that Kenya is open and safe for business and investment. We have very attractive incentives, especially in the export processing zone and the special economic zones.
Kenya's economy continues to experience robust growth at an average of 5.6% over the last 10 years. And Kenya is continuously reviewing its investment environment to ensure that businesses that are located in the country maximize their return on investment and make the country desirable for potential investors.
Foreign investors were also encouraged to ensure a significant number of employees in their businesses based in the continent or from the country of operation. The Ministry of Trade narrowed down to 6 major sectors of focus that will boost investment and promote development in the continent.
Agriculture, MSME, housing and settlement, healthcare, digital superhighway, environmental and climate change.
As the curtains close on the Kenya International Investment Conference, a lot of Kenyan businesses have given their ideas on policy changes that could drive up in these changes be taken up to drive foreign direct investments from $500 million to $10 billion by the end of this year. Hibak Said for Prime Edition.
What am I forgetting? Nini, workers paid, rent checked, mlango locked, visiting notices, goza mzae silitoa jana la internet sorted. What is it? What am I forgetting?
Nini, nimesahau kucheza Loto Moto.
Usisahau kucheza Loto Moto. Unaweza shinda hadi milioni 2 kwenye M-Pesa. Chagua lipa na M-Pesa. Paybill number, weka 7577. Account number, weka neno Loto. Weka kiwango chochote cha pesa kuanzia shilingi 50 hadi 2000. Lipa, kisha subiri draw. Ujumbe huu umeidhinishwa na BCLP.
Iwapo unakohoa, unahisi uchungu kwenye kifua, uchovu kila wakati, joto jingi mwilini, unakosa hamu ya kula au kupoteza uzito haraka bila kukusudia na kutokwa na jasho jingi usiku, waeza kuwa waugua TB.
Maybe if she was a good wife, Dad would have been around.
We'll be fine.
That cannot happen while Glenn and I are still alive.
You need to take it easy with your mother.
In this house, I am the boss.
I have a feeling Paul ni kama anajua.
Well, I'm planning to see them down.
TB yaweza kuangamiza jamii yako. Usikubali. Matibabu ni bila malipo katika hospitali zote za serikali.
We continue with business. The central bank has cleared the risk-based loan pricing models by 33 out of 39 commercial banks, signaling lower lending rates. This follows a reduction of 24. Let me take that again. That is 39 commercial banks are signaling lower lending rates. Here is Benson Rioba with the details.
Been calling on the central bank to fast-track the shift of banks to a risk-based loan pricing since the interest-capping law was repealed. The regulator now says it has scrutinized models presented by 33 out of 39 banks on risk-based pricing models.
We have the last thing in terms of data. You know, we put forward this sort of risk-based credit pricing model, you know, asking banks to present theirs. And we have reviewed all models that were submitted to us, and we've engaged with commercial banks, those commercial banks individually on their models, on their pricing models. And so far we've concluded this sort of discussions with 33 of the 39 banks.
Central Bank Governor Dr. Patrick Njoroge says Kenya has received 68.5 billion shillings syndicate loan and is set to receive an additional 13.7 billion shillings loan from the African Development Bank, which are set to support the exchange rates.
There's of course we're expecting about 100 million from the AFDB, that's the African Development Bank, 100 million US, and we have already received some proceeds from a syndicated loans. That's a total of about 500 million.
He made the remarks during the Post-Monetary Policy Committee briefing. Benson Rioba reporting for Prime Edition.
The draft 2023-2024 budget has been revised down by 30 billion shillings to 3.6 trillion shillings. This follows the reduction of 24.9 billion shillings on the vote for the executive and another 5.2 billion shillings on the consolidated fund services. To fund the budget, National Treasury Cabinet Secretary Professor Njuguna Ndung'u says the government will borrow 663.5 billion shillings, of which 80% will be borrowed locally.
Initially, the draft 2023-2024 budget was set at 3.63 trillion shillings. This has now been slashed by 30 billion shillings, reducing the total budget to 3.599 trillion shillings. This means executive's vote reduces to 2.16 trillion shillings, Parliament to get 40.4 billion shillings, the judiciary to get 22.99 billion shillings, and counties to share out 385.4 billion shillings.
The most important thing is to reflect on the robust activities coming from specific sectors like wholesale and retail trade, accommodation and food services, education and information and communication. As such, the economy is expected to remain resilient just because of these sectors that are quite vibrant, even though they are coming from a low base. And we do believe that the economy is likely to grow at 5.5% in 2023.
The government plans to borrow 663.5 billion shillings, mostly from the domestic market, raising concerns about how this could crowd out the private sector in the credit market as well as increasing the public debt.
Special focus will be placed on increased employment, more equitable distribution of income, social security, while also expanding the tax revenue base and increased foreign exchange earnings. The implementation of these interventions is expected to stimulate economic recovery to 5.5% growth in 2023 from 4.8% in 2022.
You took away about 3 billion from Equalization Fund. I think it went to NGCDF. So I want a very direct answer where that 3-point-something billion is, because equalization should have been about 11.4 billion.
We have a financing constraint now.
It's not even a budget constraint, it's a financing constraint. So that going into next year, we also have huge challenges. So we have proposed what is practically possible, Chair.
Legislators tasked the government to come up with measures that will ensure every shilling is accounted for.
We're putting in too much money, spreading ourselves thinly across so many projects, yet we are not driving no benefit. So there's no value for money to the people of Kenya. And the committee was thinking strongly, why don't we collapse, put that money together into one basket, allocate it to one or two projects, complete them.
We want to make sure that the efficiency within which we are going to plan new projects, new programs, or even new activities is actually programmed along the value chain.
Other than throwing money into projects, we want to appropriate money to processes. Why? When you appropriate money to processes that you can trace, then you're able to know, once I appropriate this money this much here, I'm likely to get this outcome the other side this much. That is why we are taking as value chain, and you are going with it through all the dots up to the output.
Trevor Ngendo for Prime Edition.
Biggest odds in the world every day on selected matches. Make a decision. Mozart Bet.
This calls for celebration, and that is the reason I decided to come with my heart. Now you say sarangia dhao.
Umesema unausanga mahindi?
Nausanga mahindi.
Unausanga wahindi ama unausanga mahindi? Tuache sisi si watoto yake.
Sasa kwanza wewe vile unakuwa wewe ni mzee hata kuliko hiyo mzee. Unaweza kuwa mtoto ya mzee kwa wewe ni mzee.
Na nikisema nilitoka prematurity.
Ati?
Nikisema nilitoka prematurity masikimu.
Sasa ukitoka prematurity ungekuwa hivyo uko kweli mzee. Sasa wewe ni mtoto mdogo wewe.
Mimi na tata yangu.
Wewe una miaka ngapi?
Mimi 16. Kuna mahali mimi nishaikosana na wewe ama umesikia ati nimeipa mahali pesa?
You are very romantic and professional.
Sina swali hili kwa bibi yangu.
We want to get right into our interview, but before we do it, what will serve as a preamble to our interview tonight? A section of Kenyans remain optimistic of better economic times as the country prepares to mark the 60th National Madaraka Day celebrations in Embu County. These celebrations come at a time the country finds itself in a financial crisis amid the rising cost of living and food commodities. Our reporter Kamche Menza caught up with micro traders in the streets of Embu County who shared these struggles as they strive to put food on the table.
Wednesday mid-morning in Embu town. It is a busy day as residents prepare to host the country's 60th Madaraka Day national celebrations. We make a stop at a border pickup point. Here we meet Kenneth Maina. He is a border operator in Embu town. On a normal day, he tells us he earns 1,800 Kenya shillings.
Roughly per day natumia mafuta ya 500-600, then hiyo mafuta itanisaidia kubeba at least 1,800 to 2,000. So hiyo ndio pesa yenye nasema napataga per day. So if I reduce nikitoa expenses zangu zote, ile pesa yenye napataga imebaki tuseme ni around 800-900 hapo.
That is on a good day. If business is low, he has to make do with between 400 to 500 Kenya shillings. Kenneth, a father of one, however, says it has not been a walk in the park. After the increase in fuel prices, just like many PSV operators, he was forced to increase his charges to cater for his basic needs.
Tulikuwa tumepata challenges kidogo, lakini tumeenda tukijua vile tutajipanga, although watu bado wamekataa kupick na the new charges zenye tunalipisha.
His story mirrors that of Margaret Kirigo, a fruit vendor and grandmother of 4. She is concerned over what she says is unfavorable business environment.
Sasa tuseme umetoka kwa nyumba na elfu zako 5. Ndio unakuja unanunua tu vitu, una display soko yako. By the end of the day inakuwa umepata kama ni elfu hizo 5 na 100. Sasa si unaona uchumi uko mbaya zaidi.
For her, a 5,000 Kenya shillings carton of oranges or apples gives a profit of less than 500 Kenya shillings.
Unajua sisi mahasura hatukuragi sana. Unaweza hata enda kutengeneza kaugali na tumayai, unajiekelea. Asubuhi yake inainuka, unakunywa kikombe moja ya chai, unatoka.
But despite their struggles, they are optimistic of a better tomorrow.
Vile tunaweza omba Mr. President, kuanzia hii Madaraka Day, akirudi na kule, vile alitupromise kuhusu mama mboga, na serikali itakuwa ni bottom up. Acha tu ikuwe tu ni bottom up.
Kamche Menza for Prime Edition from Embu County.
Kamche Menza decided to help herself with the fruits being sold by the lady. The Member of Parliament for Limuru, Engineer John Kirago, joins us this evening, and we'll be talking specifically about that. Probably even before we go for Mheshimiwa, let's pick up from where the lady left. Akirudi Nairobi, that's the president.
Yes.
Ashughulikia sisi mahasla mama mboga.
Yes.
There's a general feeling out there that there's a possibility that this administration has forsaken its promise to hustlers. Is that true?
No, not true. As far as I'm concerned, the president has been very consistent. If you look at our manifesto when we were campaigning and what we are trying to do, particularly as we plan for this budget, you'll find that in fact the mama boga is central to our economic recovery. So I think what I can tell from the lady, and she speaks for many others, is that there is that anxiety. Yeah, people feel like things are not moving as fast, but I believe once we are through with the plans that we have, people will start seeing changes. Yeah.
The Madaraka Day celebrations happening tomorrow in Embu obviously come amidst the gloom that hung over it because of the high cost of living. When you say the measures that this administration is implementing, you're an insider. In fact, you had a PG the other day, and I understand the president took a lot of time to explain his vision to you people as members of parliament. What are these interventions that the president explained to you that in the near future are going to ease the burden that lies on the shoulders of Kenyans today?
I think it is good as we celebrate the 60 years to know or to note where we have come from. From a population of 7 million at the time of we got Madaraka to now almost 50 million. If you look at the budget then, which was presented by the finance minister, who was also a member of parliament for Limuru, of 2 billion, and now we are talking of 3.3 or 6 trillion. You find that this country has been moving, and we have had challenges on the way. Some of us went to a university here when we had only one. Now we are proud of almost 39 or so public, and almost an equivalent number of private universities. So this country has been up and down. And what I can say is that we are lucky to have a president like the one who is with us today. One who takes time to explain, one who engages. And on this matter of getting this country economy working, it is something that we have been discussing. One key thing is that we have made a decision that this country will not develop by borrowing left and right. That it is high time we addressed our needs. We focus on what we need to do to sustain our development. We do not need to depend a lot from other people out there, because even those other countries that we have depended on them for support, they're also having their own difficulties. And the pace of developing this country can only be driven by Kenyans. And this issue of putting food on the table is a very serious issue. It is one that we must address as Kenyans, that we cannot rely on getting food from outside. This country can feed itself. And the only thing that we need is to support those people who are in the production of food, either by giving them fertilizer, giving them incentives, making sure that we support with the know-how, and providing access to credit. Because as a nation, we have to be people who can feed themselves. Yeah. So I look at the situation that is there, and I personally believe that we should not be a people of doing nothing. We must be people of doing something. We cannot be watching and saying somehow we will feed ourselves without a plan. And the president has been very clear that we must execute a plan that is well thought, and one that we can measure the results. And I believe if given a chance to implement the plan, this country can be proud to be feeding itself.
Let me take you back to your campaign pledge.
Yes.
Heshima, because the pledge was that there will be no borrowing of loans. I'm just looking at this budget proposed that will be presented by the minister in about 2 weeks. 3.6 trillion shillings budget. It has a deficit of 663 billion shillings, and the cabinet secretary admits it will have to be borrowed. It will be borrowed. 80% of it will be borrowed locally. Is it backtracking of your promise?
I think,
or is it the minister and the president do not speak from the same side?
They speak, what you have said. Some of these things you can't just stop overnight. You have to plan how to reduce this deficit. And what we are saying, we have reduced the amount of money that we have been borrowing, so that with the time we can make sure that we sustain our needs. But the way we were going, the trend that was there was, planning for borrowing, and you continue borrowing to a point where sometimes you don't know what is next. We are saying, let's focus on what we can do. And that's the whole issue about taxation. We're saying, if we expanded the people who can pay tax, if some of us who earn more can sacrifice slightly more, we can change the way things are in this country. That we can also make possible for some of the people who do not have even a shelter. We can sacrifice a bit so that we provide shelter to them. And if by doing that, we may end up, and in fact, I think it is possible, that if you improve on the shelter, the sanitation, particularly the slums, for example, you reduce the burden on how much we are using on health services. And you have a larger number of healthy people who can actually be productive. So this issue of dealing with lowering the cost of living, it should be looked from all sides. Because if, for example, the people and the majority of our people are living in not so decent kind of places, and we are talking of taking this country to another level, we are saying that there are some people who do not deserve to move with us. And what we are saying is that it's only a bit of sacrifice from all of us, that we also bring those who are down there to work with us, to make sure that they have some decent places of living. If you look at, for example, like the informal settlement that we have, including the slums, look at the water connections, look at the electricity connections. The amount of water that is lost, you cannot account for. In these areas, is a lot of water. And yet we are struggling to get water to everybody. But if you look at it, it is because where they live, the connections are not right. If it is leaking, nobody will know. And you know, is a very important commodity like water in this climate change situation. Now what you are saying, people should not look like the housing only like a luxury. It is something that we must do and straighten to make sure that everybody lives well, but by providing them with good accommodation, we are also likely to benefit from the losses that we incur because of the way these people live and the way we provide the services to them.
That is providing dignity.
Yeah, dignity.
All right.
And dignity is a right for every Kenyan. It's not for some. You see, we have people in this country. If you cough, you are taken by an air ambulance to a neighboring country or a foreign country. But we also must remember those people who are out there, as, exposed to cholera, exposed to all sorts of illness. They are Kenyans like us, and they deserve decency. They deserve decency.
I'm just taking you back to the question of debt just a bit, because if you were to borrow the 663 billion Kenya shillings, which of course you say 80% of it will be local borrowing, it will take Kenya's debt to 9.4 trillion. It's currently at 8.8. That means it will be again 600 billion shillings short of the ceiling of 10 trillion. This is not what you promised.
I'm an engineer, and there are better people who argue about the money side. But I can tell you for sure that this argument of that we are borrowing, it is politics. People know for sure that this country is not borrowing beyond other countries. What we are talking about is that, yes, we borrow with some plan. We must make sure that this economy starts working so that we can sustain our development plan. Now, the thing is, what people should be discussing is what do you do when you borrow? One of the things that is not acceptable is to borrow to pay the recurrent. That I borrow so that I can pay salaries for you. Yeah? So what we should do, and I'm happy that like the investment conference that has been here, if you listen to the outcome of it, is that there is a lot of potential for this country, for people to come in and invest. But Kenyans also have the capacity also to generate an economy that can compete with others. And when we have an employment like we have, of 5 million or so youth, our biggest challenge right now is how do we engage these kind of people? Yeah, you cannot have that kind of labor lying idle. And we have been thinking, and I feel sad when people start talking about this housing is not good, I don't know, it's like a luxury, and yet you have no plan for what you can do to these youth who are lying around all over the country. For me, is that if we as a country were focusing on all the resources we have, both human and anything else, we can move this country forward without leaving anybody behind.
The admission today by the Kenya Revenue Authority says it has missed its target of revenue collection by 124.8 billion shillings. Mheshimiwa, Kenya Kwanza insists on the finance bill that is coming before you as members of parliament next week. By KRA admitting this, is an admission that already things are difficult. If they cannot meet their target and they're missing the target by 124 billion shillings, that means things are still difficult.
But you see, even you, I'm sure there are certain targets you have missed. Maybe you wanted 3-4 kids by now, maybe you have 1 or 2. But the point is, you don't give up. You don't give up. It's not the end of the world. Or what we are saying, this is our country. Missing or not missing, we are not going anywhere. We have to deal with our problem. All what I'm saying is that whatever problems we have, they are not for other people. They are ours. If you are missing the target, it means you and me and somebody else, you are not paying. Yeah? So the KRA is talking to us. Those people who have not paid, pay. Because what else are they supposed to do, KRA? They are supposed to talk to us so that we know that they are falling short, and those people who must pay must pay so that they meet the target. Or what is not good and is very unfortunate is that now people start measuring the performance of the government against like now the shortfall that is there. But you know what? It is Kenyans. It is not the government paying. It is us Kenyans who must pay so that we support the plans that we have. Let me tell you, I'm a member of parliament, and I have not come across any member of parliament who says he is done with the roads, done with the water, done with the schools, done with everything. And for that reason, he does not require anything more. All of us, in fact, even when they find the president somewhere, it's a question of giving a list. Or what you're saying, it is good. But we must remember, all these requirements requires some money. At this point in time, we are saying, as a country, some of us have to sacrifice, pay a little more to make sure that that person at the bottom also gets a chance. But just because you are comfortable, you have a supporting mechanism that is not going to be shaken for the next 2 or 3 decades, you can't see that person. We must focus, all of us. Like now, we have 3 million cars in this country, but you have very many people who are walking. Sometimes we see people walking, going to work, you think that they are doing exercises. No. It's because they can't afford. And it doesn't matter what you are driving. Remember those people. They are the ones who support you to make sure that you drive. But also, think about them. So for me, is that our burden is not about government, it's about all of us saying we must improve this country.
All right. Listening to you, the meeting that you had with His Excellency the President, to be fair to him, is his first budget formulated by his own minister and by his administration. Is there room, probably from what you discussed, because I mean, all the heat you're seeing now is generated by the proposals in the finance bill. Is there room to amend these proposals, or Kenya Kwanza MPs are going to adopt it?
You know,
as
Kenya
is?
Kwanza,
yes.
we believe in democracy and freedom of expressions, and most of us have been listening to the other people on the other side who are fighting this thing and asking, what is the suggestion from the other side? We have 5 million unemployed youth. What is their plan? We have housing shortage in the country. Okay, we have proposed this. What is their plan? We are saying we want to do improve on education, the health, and all that. You know, you see, you need to listen to some logical opinion from the other side, so that it can help you to change your position. But I can tell you, what I have heard from the other people is don't. Let's not do it. It is not necessary. It is too expensive. Put amechoka. But honestly, we are looking for solutions. When you are telling 5 million youth in Kenya that actually you do not care, they can wait. Yeah? What are you saying? You must be bold enough to say your plan is not better than our plan, because our plan is to do ABCD.
The plan by the opposition and their advice is cut down on wastage. They claim there's a lot of wastage in government. Focus on corruption without, having to appear like it's targeting some people. And that's the plan. They're saying with those 2 measures, it is enough to collect enough revenue to
I can tell some of the people leading that campaign. Why haven't they said we are going to forfeit our what we are getting from this government, 50%, to support that initiative? Or what corruption? I think if there is a government that is ready to fight corruption, is this one. And we have started. The other time people like jokes. Here and in this government, it has been very clear to all of us that you watch. We are going to fight it. That's the reason why we have talked of institutions and empowering those institutions so that they are independent. If it is judiciary, if it is the police, so that they don't have to come borrowing resources so that they fight corruption. All what we are saying, we must strengthen our institution, we must fund them, and the way to fund them is for us to get money so that we can do that. So you cannot just fight corruption by doing nothing. You have to invest in it. Make sure that this fight is sustainable. Yeah? And for me is that I believe that it is possible for this country, for us, all of us, if you are honest, yeah, to bring it to a level where we can convince everybody, yeah, all the Kenyans, that it is worth paying slightly more because you are going to receive those services that you need. Because it is a question of what do I need when I pay? You know, we know countries which are even heavily taxed, like Scandinavian countries. Yeah, but what do they get in return? Is the services we are talking about, that you don't have to worry about a house because you know your community will support you get one. Yeah, they will support you up to a point where you yourself can be big enough to start earning. Or what you are saying, like now the housing, is that look, we can support this project so that it start moving, so that the people we are supporting in another 3 years, they can be able to afford. And by doing that, we will remove some of the agri parts of this country. I come from Limuru, where we have over 10 colonial villages. Do you know what? There are some people who live on what we call Shauriako. Those are the road reserves within the villages. From 1960, they have lived there several generations. You want us to say that it is okay for those kind of families to live there? We are talking of social programs where we can build houses for such people because they are also Kenyans. But the fact that you live on the other side, you know, don't pretend that you have no eyes. Yeah, those people who are living in those reserves, some of them fought for the independence of this country. We are having a very good function tomorrow. Yeah, and I'm wishing the Embu people, and particularly the governor of Embu, all the best wishes. But let's not forget that this country can only be stronger, can only be more cohesive by making sure that we do not leave some people behind.
Equality. You know, that finance bill has actually led to the suspension of bipartisan talks by your colleagues from Azimio. First of all, your reaction to, you know, that withdrawal from the bipartisan talks by Azimio based on the finance bill, I don't know, commitment to electoral reforms.
I would pray that these talks continue. We should not play the politics that I have had. Some of those politics we know have taken some countries in a very bad direction. We don't need to try some things which have not worked elsewhere. As far as I'm concerned, what we are discussing is about this country. It is not a personal issue. And I have said, if you think you have a better argument, why can't you sit with the people and convince them? Let me say this. There is no better solution that we can get as a country by going to the streets, by causing chaos, by threatening, I don't know, moving out of Kenya or whatever. Those are not solutions. The solution that we need is the practical solutions. You say, okay, we have an election coming, whatever. If you think you didn't have a better chance for winning, you have all the time. But also allow those people who won also to implement what they have planned for. so that by the time you're coming to the election, you can say, I gave them time. Yeah? These are their results. But you cannot fight people even before they start anything. You are fighting. You are saying you can't do this. And yet this like us, we told people this is what we are going to do. Now you are saying to us that we cannot do what we promised people to do. So for me is that if we truly love this nation, let's put things on the table for discussion. Don't threaten walking away. You're walking away to where? Across Uganda, Somalia, where are you going? You know, you are part of this nation. If you have better solution, put them on the table so that we discuss. Because we are talking about this nation. We are celebrating the 60 years here. 60 years. How many people have gone through this country? People who have, served this nation. Yeah? People we read. Their contributions. Some of them did everything, but they didn't get much out of it. But they served this nation. So even us will be assessed by the coming generation as to what we did when we had the opportunity. But I don't think we will be rewarded for going on the streets and causing chaos or destroying people's property. But I'm sure if you could come up with a well-thought way of how we can get out of the problems that we have, people will say yes. When that person talked, the economy of Kenya changed.
All right. In 1 minute, you have this camera to say your last word, of course, as you wish.
I would like me to take this opportunity to wish even His Excellency the President and his Deputy and his Cabinet and all the leadership of National Assembly and Senate and all the leaders around the country and all the Kenyans. Happy Madaraka Day tomorrow. I also want to send all goodwill message to people of Ebu. And I'm very proud of them that they have really prepared for this Madaraka, particularly led by Her Excellency the Governor, Barria. And for people of Limuru, I want to assure them that I know and I have heard their problems. We have worked with them. But there are no other people who will come to help us Kenyans but ourselves. And this road to recovery, it will be by Kenyans. And the Kenyans have the capacity and the will to move this country to another level.
Fantastic. The Member of Parliament for Limuru, Engineer John Kirago-Shege. And of course, our eyes are on the National Assembly as it resumes its sittings next week. We want to see what transpires there. And that's it. Thank you very much, Mheshimiwa, for joining us tonight. And wish you the very best and happy Madaraka Day celebrations to yourself and your family and the people of Limuru. We are taking a breather. When we come back, Daniel Home is up next with sports.
Berlin is calling. The footballing fraternity is taking note. Defending champions RB Leipzig have reached the DFB Pokal final for the third successive season after an emphatic 5-1 win over SC Freiburg.
Danny Olmo, there's no pressure on him, and he's found Nkunku! Ruthless!
Similarly, Eintracht Frankfurt are into the final of the DFB Cup following a 3-2 victory over VfB Stuttgart. The DFB Pokal hits a crescendo on Saturday, 3rd June at 9 p.m. when RB Leipzig will be up against Eintracht Frankfurt live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1. Don't miss out on the unexpected delight.
It is Colomboigny against Bredlow, a battle Colomboigny was never going to lose.
KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
It is the cup with the golden ticket. Mozart Bet Cup, 2 million shillings. CAF Confederations Cup. Kuwa mshindi. Mozart Bet Cup.
A very good evening to you. My name is Daniel Wahome and welcome to Prime Edition Sport on Madaraka Day Eve. Now, Thierry Neuville is determined to revive his FIA World Rally Championship title ambitions at Rally Italia Sardinia on the first day, that is the 1st of June, as his Hyundai Motorsport team set sights on securing a first victory of the season. And I'll tell you this, you want to watch the super special opening stage of the Rally Italia Sardinia? Tune in to KBC Channel 1 at 7 p.m. tomorrow. Now, on to athletics, where two-time Olympic and world 1,500-meter champion Faith Kipyegon will renew her rivalry with Great Britain's Laura Muir at the Florence meet on Friday, which is the third leg of the 2023 Diamond League season. World 5,000-meter silver medalist Jacob Krop will also compete in Rome as he prepares for the World Championships in Budapest, Hungary later this year.
Trying to see where she was going to settle here.
2 years ago, Faith Kipyegon lost to Dutch woman Sifana San in one of the most memorable races and will be aiming to continue her rich vein of the form in the build-up to the World Championships in Budapest in August at the Florence Diamond League meet in Italy. Kipyegon, who set the national records of 3 minutes, 53.91 seconds in Florence in 2021, boasts of 2 Olympic titles in the 1,500 meters and as many World Championship gold medals. At her season debut in Doha, she has already clocked 3 minutes, 58.57 seconds. African 100 meters record holder Ferdinando Manyala will also be on the track, aiming to bag gold after finishing third in Rabat last weekend. He will be up against Fred Kelly of the USA and Simbine Akani of South Africa.
Bye, Fred Curley.
Beatrice Chepkoech, Jacqueline Chepkoech and Fancy Cherono will all line up in a strong field of 15 athletes, aiming to win the 3,000 meter steeplechase in Italy. For Prime Edition Sports, I'm Daniel Mwendwa.
Takes the win, the 21-year-old.
Now moving on is that a provisional squad of 20 players have been named for the Malkia Strikers. Next 2 assignments at the Africa Women's Nations Cup slated for August in Cameroon and the FIB Challenger Cup in France. Meanwhile, Nakuru City Queens will face Ulinzi Stars in the FKF Women's Cup finals after the 2 won their respective semi-final matches in Nakuru today.
Veteran setter Rose Magoi made the cut after a long absence alongside Kenya Pipeline teammates Eloise Simiyu, Leonida Kasaya, Agrippina Kundu, Gladys Ekaru, Pamela Adhiambo and Triza Atuka in the Malkia striker squad named. Others who made the team are Greece-based Sharon Chumba and Massimo Im, Turkey-based Veronica Adhiambo and Lorraine Chebet among others. Malkia strikers are gearing up for a training camp in Morocco ahead of the FIVB Challenger Cup in France and the Africa Women's Nations Cup in Cameroon slated for August. Meanwhile, Nakuru City Queens will face Ulinzi Starlets in the FKF Women Cup final after the 2 teams progressed through their semi-final matches played today in Nakuru. Ulinzi Starlets outshined Kisumu All Starlets 2-0, while Nakuru Queens defeated Kibera Ladies 3-2 to qualify for the final. Both Nakuru and Ulinzi reached the last 4 in the inaugural competition in 2021 that was eventually won by the Soldiers at the ASK ground in Nakuru. Ulinzi are favourites to retain the title in the absence of perennial rivals Vihiga Queens and Gospel Women that were ousted from the competition in the last 16 stage.
While I'm talking about cup finals, we've got 2 cup finals lined up for you on KBC Channel 1. First, we've got the DFB Pokal Cup final lined up for you on Saturday at 9 p.m. and this is going to be live on KBC Channel 1. And on the 1st of July, it's going to be the Mozart Bet Cup final, and this is going to be one to determine who represents Kenya in the CAF Confederation Cup. Stay tuned to KBC Channel 1 as we build up to all that. And also tomorrow at 7 p.m., the opening stage of Rally Italia Sardinia. And we'll be giving you hints of what's more to come as far as petrol heads and hybrid cars are concerned. My name is Daniel Wahome. Have a good evening.
It is the cup with the golden ticket. Mozart Bet Cup, 2 million shillings. CAF Confederations Cup. Kuwa mshindi. Mozart Bet Cup.
That definitely puts a cap on Prime Edition tonight. Thank you very much for joining us. Behind me there, that is a sign that you're an independent country. Free indeed. Happy Madaraka Day celebrations to you and your loved ones. See you around. And what a better plan to take us into Madaraka Day than the rave coming up next. Good night. God bless you. My name is John Jacob Kioria.